Hey, what's going on? You guys are sick and tired of looking at an ugly desktop with a basic Windows background like this one, and you guys wanted to learn how to create something more personalized, more customized, and generally better looking, something more along the lines of this, or even this. If you're really, really good, you can make something as nice as this. Then you're in the right place, because today I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to use a program called Rainmeter along with the built-in functions that is stock on Windows 10 to customize your desktop to make it a very more personal experience. So the first step in customizing your desktop experience is obviously picking out a background. Right? You want to go online and find something that's really high quality. I always love super HD pictures, and you want to find something that matches your exact monitor resolution. And you can go ahead and find out what your monitor resolution is by right-clicking the desktop, going into display settings, scrolling down to display resolution on whatever monitor is. I mean, I have two of the exact same monitors, but whatever monitor you're looking for is. And you'll see right here, mine's 1920 by 1080. Now, I'm not going to want to get anything smaller than that, because if I do, say I get something that's maybe 1280 by 720, the image is only going to cover up this much space, and the rest of the area is going to be black. And you can fit it to page, right? But then that's going to stretch the image and pixelate it. It's not going to look as high quality as it should. So make sure you don't get an image that's smaller than your display resolution. So to find our background, we're going to go ahead and pop open a new Firefox tab, and the kind of background that I want to revolve my desktop experience around is going to be some kind of, like tree of life experience. So I'm going to try search for abstract tree of life 1980 by 1920 by 1080. And when you're looking for pictures, you kind of want to have an idea of what type of form factor that you are going to be designing this desktop for. For example, this is a really cool picture, but because there's just a whole lot going on, specifically in the foreground, right? And I consider the foreground all of the images out here that are catching your eyes, like this rock, like this big tree, and even all these vines that are sticking out at your face and leaves here. I would consider the background the stuff in the back here. There's really not a whole lot that you can work with to fit, widgets and other cool items on your desktop. So that's something to be aware of, even though this is a really cool picture. You might be able to use something more along the lines of this, where, you've got this whole sky area. You even might be able to do something cool with straight bars down here. Maybe a nice weather clock. You would see like a sun or a moon right here. That's just what I'm imagining when I'm looking at these. But when I look at this picture, it's hard to really fit anything. It's hard to imagine widgets really looking good here. Now, again, I'm sure there's people out there that can make this look really good and really functional, but it's definitely easier for your first time to stick with a picture more like this. But I don't really like this one. I'm gonna keep looking for a minute. Wow. I really like this picture. So I found an image that I really like that has a whole lot of real estate that we can work with. I can see something going down here. I can see a nice big weather widget over here that this woman's looking at, and I generally like the composure and quality of this picture, so I think that it fits well. But that's usually the first thing that people do when they are customizing their desktop, and that's usually where the road stops for most people as well. Everybody knows how to change their background. But this is really where the journey begins, right? Because there's even some really cool features inside of Windows 10 that, completely allow you to change up the way, absolutely everything looks, even down to, just your Firefox windows and stuff like that. So the first thing I want to show you guys is all of the really cool settings that you can even do to the various forms and your taskbar. To customize everything. So if you go ahead and do what I just did there by right-clicking and clicking personalize, it's going to bring up your background image or your background screen, right? But if you look onto the left-hand column over here, you're going to see different rows with different options. And if you select your background, if you didn't already, set your background, it even has a history of other ones. I really, really like this picture as well. Check that out. But that's what I've been using for a while, so I figure we'll change it up. So anyway, I already picked my background. It's filled, but this is actually a humongous image. It's like 4,000 pixels by 2,500 or something like that. It's made for, I believe, 4K, but anyway, we'll go into the colors here, and this first option I think is huge for most people because I was on the dark setting this entire time. Basically, it's one of the first things I do when I install a fresh copy of Windows, because it's so easy on the eyes. And the whole time I've been recording this, basically for 20 minutes, I've been blind to the fact that it's just ridiculous. So for me, I always go right to dark. Pretty much on any color scheme I do, it's always the dark, and it's the same way with my Firefox and Google Chrome windows. I think that this is so much easier on the eyes, and it allows you to sit for longer because it's not nearly as stressful. And maybe it's because I'm quite younger, and even though I wear glasses, I feel like my eyes really aren't that bad. That this isn't an issue for me all the time. But let me know what you think about that in the comments below. I'm not sure if the dark color scheme is harder for people to see or not, but for me, that's what I like to do. Now, if you'd really like, you can allow Windows to choose an accent color for you. I don't like that. I like to make it my own, right? So what I do is I kind of look at the background and I look at the colors that we're given. I see a lot of nice reds over here from the woman. I see a lot of green over here on the other side and on the ground that she's sitting on, right? There's a lot of this nice purple blue that you can even see in the background here. We've got some pink. So we've really got a lot going on, and specifically down where I like to keep my taskbar, things kind of seem to be fading out. So I want to keep my taskbar consistent with that. I feel like for this composure, like for example in that last image, the bright green tree, I had a green taskbar, but I just don't feel like something like that's going to jive well with this setup. I want something much more subtle. So when I open up my settings here, I'm definitely going to check. See, look at that. There's no way. There's absolutely no way that looks good. But when you check this button here, the show accent color on the following services, the taskbar and the title bars here, you see what that just did? Creates kind of an outline. I'll uncheck it, right? So you see that? I like to have that checked, man. It just gives almost a shadow effect on the background, right? So unchecked and checked. But anyway, now we need to pick a color that's going to jive well with this setup, and I'll make my screen here a little bit smaller so we can kind of get a better view of what's going on. But I think definitely something dark gray with a little bit of hue of blue would be really good for this setup. So we're going to go into custom setups here. Get kind of like a nice blue there, but we're going to bring it down something. There we go. We're going to drag it over a little bit more towards that teal color. We're going to see what that does. Oh, look at that. That's a little better. It's a little better. Can we add transparency effects? Right, so that's going to make that really blend in there. Look at that. So again, this is the before we did that. That's the pure color. That's that pure kind of that cyan blue color that we really toned down. And then when you add the transparency, I think that brings the darkness from the background here where it's kind of fading off, and you can still see everything on your bar. We're gonna close that. I think that looks really good. Even though it's kind of bland, I think that's what this setup calls for here, because we're really drawing attention to what's going on here with her reading and our sunset in the background and our nice beautiful tree. Yeah, so ultimately when you have your nice background selected and you kind of fit your taskbar to match, and you made sure to set your taskbar up in a way that you like. One thing I never like it how by default it squishes together all of these nodes here. I've never liked that. I think a lot of people actually do, so that's fine. But for me, I don't mind everything being wide here. I've got enough monitor real estate that it's never been an issue for me. And another thing that I like to do, if I were to close all these tabs, which I'm not going to, especially obviously this one, and more importantly, cannot stop the grind, right? But if I were to close all these, you would see that I actually have a clean taskbar. I don't have anything at all pinned to my taskbar, and even these icons over to the right hand side are all there, organized in a way that is neat and very specific, right? I always want to have my VPN right here just so I know that I'm connected and protected. And I always have Discord to see if I have any notifications. And then more importantly, Windows security, just to let me know if I have any Windows updates, or if, you know, anything with the virus scan goes crazy. I'd like to show my my networking panel here just to see, you know, if there's ever any issues with my internet connection. You usually would see it right there, and volume controls and clock, obviously. But the main thing that I want to point out here is you notice how clean my desktop is. This really is my main monitor, right? I don't have any desktop icons. Now that might not be popular for some people, but for me, and if you want to build a desktop, you know, with Rainmeter that's going to look super clean and creative, you have to kind of understand that you need to clean it up. So you have to get rid of every single one, really, of your desktop icons. And to do that, you can do something simple like actually using your start menu here. You look, I can show you how mine's organized. The first tab here is most commonly used. It's, you know, my Firefox, Thunderbird, Discord, and media player snipping tool. I come here all the time for that. LibreOffice, all of the stuff that I'm using every day. Right below that, I've got my RuneScape tab, CSGO, all of my games. Below that, there's all of the computing stuff. I've got Hyper-V, a debugger, I've got GitHub, Packet Tracer, settings. So if you really utilize your start menu here, it can be really beneficial to you. Now, the next thing that I quickly want to show you how to do is get rid of your recycling bins, because trust me, when you start getting into the world of Rainmeter, there are way better looking recycling bins out there than, hang on. There are way better looking recycling bins out there than the ones that Windows gives you. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Open up your taskbar and you're going to type in desktop icons. That's going to bring up the themes and related settings prompt. Go ahead and click that. You bring up themes here. You actually just scroll down past the pictures. Related settings, desktop icon settings. Click it. Close that. Desktop icons, look. When you do that, they all pop up here, man. The recycling bin, control panel. And you know, you can't even delete these. Spam and delete, you can't even delete those. This is the only way to do that, right? So desktop icon settings, you get there by Googling, or not Googling, I'm sorry, looking up desktop icons, themes and related settings, scroll down, open up desktop icon settings, and take your recycling bin off your desktop. Alright, man, so now is the part where things get really cool and fancy, right? So we're going to go ahead and load back up our Firefox, and we're going to Google Rainmeter. And this is the official website, rainmeter.net. So that's where we're going to go. And you guys need to download Rainmeter. I like to download the current final version. You know, a lot of people will use the beta. But if you're a first-time user, you never know if there's going to be an issue, you know, with the beta. I'd say more times than not, you're going to be all right using, you know, the beta release. But, you know, if you want to be safe, download the final. I already have it installed, so I'm not going to go ahead and do that. But download it, install it, and then I will meet you there. So when you first install Rainmeter and you launch it, and by default, just so you know, this usually defaults to launching when Windows starts up, which is actually what you want it to do. But just note, you know, if you don't have a decent computer, this doesn't take a whole lot. Well, unless, you know, you overdo it, this usually doesn't take a whole lot of resources. But, you know, obviously when you have things like this involved running, they are processes and they do take up some type of CPU resource and RAM resource. So just be aware of that. But this is what you're going to be greeted with by default. And this is the default skin, Illustro. There's some really cool tools in here that you can use to start getting acclimated to Rainmeter. But what you can do is come on down into your taskbar, wherever this little Rainmeter icon is. And I believe you can even, so you can actually just right click on any one of the skins here, go into settings. Actually, I'm sorry, you go into manage skins, and that'll go ahead and bring up your manage Rainmeter box here, where you can see this is the area that has all of the skins that you have installed, right? So by default, you won't have any of these other ones. These are the ones that I use and have kind of accumulated over my time here of doing Rainmeter on this current version of Windows I have installed here. So again, By default, you always will have this Illustro theme, and again, there's some really good features here. Like even the clock here shows you the time, date, and you know, day of the week, which is really cool. These discs and system are even better, right? You can see me recording this video. I'm using, you know, 14 to 15% CPU, pretty consistent with the RAM. You can see how much of my drive space is full here, which is really useful. What else do they have here? They have a nice little Google tab. Another one I like to do is a network. I'm not going to bring that up because that's going to flash my IP. But yes, and what we have been waiting for, a nice cool recycling bin. Look, isn't this down here in the bottom right hand corner way nicer than just an ugly little Windows icon up here, right? And again, this is interactive. It shows you how many items are in there. It shows you how much is full. The Windows icon doesn't do that. And look, again, I just clicked that, pulled it up, and it would show everything in there. So to load and unload skins, you know, like for example, this Welcome to Rainmeter skin, you're obviously not going to want to use this one. You come into your managed skin and you double click it. So that's gone, right? And if I double clicked again, brings it up. So we're going to get that out of here, and we're actually going to get rid of all of these Illustro skins. Because I want to take a couple minutes of my time to show you how you can download and you know, basically find your own unique skins, and they're going to be a lot nicer, no offense, I guess, than the Illustro. Those Illustros are really functional and they're really great, but there's some really cool skins out there, and I want to show you guys quickly how you can find them. So if you load up Firefox and you go back to the Rainmeter website, rainmeter.net, you can go ahead to this discover page. And there's a whole bunch of different sources you can look for to get these skins. The ones that I've had the best luck with, straight up, is this DeviantArt. The Rainmeter forums are really good for if you're trying to learn how to create your own skins, and same with the Discord. Reddit's really good to basically find inspiration. Like if we go on there right now, we can probably just look at this, right? Oh, this guy's is animated. So I mean, check this out. You know, you can come on here and just see some of the really nice creations people have done. So that's what I like the Reddit for. But you know, if we go over here to DeviantArt, we can start looking for, you know, something that's going to go along with this. So, you know, I kind of mentioned when I was picking the background, I can see like a nice big weather wrap here. I already have one in mind, actually, that I already have installed from previously. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that up. And check this out. It's called Board Weather, Russian and English. For this scheme, I'm going to use the light. So we're going to launch this, let that load. Bam. Check that out. Maybe we can... It's kind of big, huh? And we're going to go ahead and throw some transparency on it. That looks cool. That's way better. That helps kind of compensate with the size. And we're going to throw it up at the top right hand corner. So now I'm going to have a nice forecast that I can click on. It's interactive. It shows me the dates. It shows me like what the sun and cloud situation is going to look like. We've got precipitation tomorrow on Thursday. It was rainier earlier today, so I would have imagined if I had this installed earlier that it would have been more of a cloudy, rainy situation. But you can see, you know, overcast over the next day. This is really helpful, and I think it looks really good there. So again, that was the, what's that called? It's the Board Weather Russian English, and I found that on DeviantArt. But now we're going to go back there and see what else we can find to go along with our nice little weather setup. So if you come onto the main page here and you scroll on down into the featured tab, you can see some of the best creations that Rainmeter has to offer. Now a lot of these are really old, like this one in particular, for example. It looks really nice, but you know, it's been on the front page as long as I can remember. You know, glasses, actually I really recommend you getting glasses, because look at all of the really nice tools that comes here. This one here, I used to have a lot of pictures of my car and other cool pictures in this slideshow, and it was really a nice clean slideshow. Their weather wrap is really informative. They've got a good time zone. You know, they have a lot of really nice tools on here. Even look at their recycling bin. It's got that nice sheen on it. Glasses is just generally a really good starter application and really functional. But again, it's another one that's been around for as long as I can remember. So the ones that you're gonna find here in featured, you know, again, they're really high quality, but they're not necessarily gonna be the most unique. Oh, look at this clock. I actually have this clock as well. That would kind of look good for this type of a setup right here. All right, so I didn't actually have that exact clock that I thought we saw on the website here. But I do have a similar one. Well, not necessarily that similar, but one that looks, I think, good. It's got really plain text here, really curvy. I think it kind of goes along with the cloudy vibe. And I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit transparent as well. Look at that. That makes it really sit right back on in there, I think. So now I've got the time, and I've got a nice weather app up here. I think that's really all I want to do, basically, for this top portion. I want to keep it kind of clean. So what I want to do now is just add a couple of monitors down here that will just show me some information about what's going on my system. So I have an idea of, you know, how much of my resources are being used, how much is in my recycling bin, and etc. So I downloaded a really cool suite called Modern Gadgets, and it has a bunch of these really sleek looking tools that I'm really finding interesting. And this one here is a stopwatch, which would be really useful for me when I'm playing D&D with my friends, because I'm actually the dungeon master. So there are times where we are kind of role playing through a scenario. Maybe say we're entering into a hostile bar, where my games instructor guide tells me that you know, basically, while my party is kind of exploring the area, like trying to understand what's inside the bar, if, you know, say an X amount of time, say 30 seconds goes by, which is exactly how long that's gone by since I've been talking, right then and there, I would interrupt quite literally anything that they're doing with an action. Like, say, the bar that they went into is not friendly towards them. That 30 seconds goes up, boom, I have a perfect timer that took me no time to bring up to start that action, and as soon as I know 30 seconds is up, I can have my bar patron whip a nice mug clear across the table and crack my Hackorf Garrock right in the head with it, right? So that's what this is going to be useful for me. And there's some other things here that I'm going to play around with and see if we can get something popping down here. So another thing that I really want to point out about specifically this suite, this Modern Gadgets suite, is just how diligent the author Raygard was in creating settings that's easy for the user to use, right? If you typically wanted to edit any of the parameters within this skin, you would have to hit edit, and look at what that does, right? That brings up this notepad of the literal raw code that's inputted to make these things work. And I do think that you should have an understanding of how these work, but you're not going to, you know, even probably inside of your first week using Rainmeter, so that's okay. Nobody expects you to. But guys like Raygard make it really easy with their GUIs here. Right, he created a whole add-on, a whole overlay that controls the parameters inside of, you know, the mother overlay, which is this one here. So, you know, if I open up the settings and I don't want the read and write speeds, look at what that does. Right, it changes, you know, exactly what is shown. It's just really nice, and I wanted to give props to Raygard because he did a really good job in doing this. So I've really got the majority of the meters that I really need and widgets that I want to have on this thing. So I'm just kind of right now finalizing the positioning on there. But I kind of wanted to use this time to give this thing a wrap for you guys. And though this right here that you're seeing obviously isn't really even comparable to some of the art that you actually see when you check out that Reddit page. And I highly recommend you just go on that Reddit page for a little while. And, you know, you browse some of the creations that are on there, because some of the work that some of these people put into their desktops, it's really just stunning, and it's beautiful to see that they're elevating, you know, desktop personalization to that level. But I hope that this was, you know, a really good introduction and can help you build a foundation about how to make a really sweet desktop like this one here. And, you know, if I helped you out, definitely leave a comment down below saying thanks. I really love that. It helps fuel my, you know, future endeavors. Thanks for coming by, guys. Check out the link in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.